Hey guys, this is Andrei, a certified translator and a real estate agent. I've been relocating people to Belarus from EU, US, Canada and other civilized places. Sometimes they're too civilized. Over the last 3 years now. And today I would like to tell you a little bit about private visas to Belarus. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Thank you for liking, disliking the content. If you have feedback underneath the video, let's get started. Please note that this or any other of my videos are no legal advice, no consultancy officially. It's my point of view, it's how I read the book, and before you take any action you may want to double check against the official resource. Ideally not some commercial travel agency, visa agency, blah 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 resource, especially if it's a foreign visa agency, they're the worst. But with the consulate of Belarus in your country of application, and check the information before you take any specific steps. Also, please note that this clip is not the entire book on private visa laid out before you. It's just the what I could call market cases of private visas applied in the field, the most popular cases I have been dealing with over the last 3+10 years, tour guiding career and relocation career. So please keep this in mind. Generally, why would one need a private visa? Private or guest visa is given to applicants, to visitors of Belarus who want to see their relatives in the first line, or friends, or undergo medical treatment, or see their property, or see their spouse. And spouse and house visas are a little bit different, but they still fall into the same category of private visas. Normally, it's 90 days in a year. Normally, friends produce a one-time visa. 90 days comes straight as 3 months visit, up to 90 days. It could be a shorter span. And sometimes the local migration office may or may not argue about getting 2 entries. If you need to go relax somewhere and then come back to Belarus together, then your relatives would leave. And there are other cases, like with property or spouse, you can get 90 days that you can use within the running year, within the year which is kick-started by your first day in the country, not like per 2002 or 2003 or something like this. And this could be split, let's say, in 3 one-month visits across the year. And these are multiple visas. While it's clear that the visa for house and for spouse is basically based on your papers that you supply immediately, the certificates, the private visa for a friend or a relative is coming through an invitation generated by the local migration office of your host or your friend. Your host has to apply to their migration office, write down an application, pay the state fee. It's now 2 base units, and over 10 days, unless there is acceleration fee paid on top, he or she will get the invitation generated within 1 day, essentially. 1 or 5 days, there are 2 different offers, let's say. This invitation provided by the migration office will be either scanned and emailed to you, or posted to you, or brought to the national airport consulate if you are to apply upon arrival. Sometimes there are cases when one has to do that. For the migration secure countries, let's just call them Western countries, it's easier, although some countries in Asia have pretty good reputation as well. For such countries, it may be easier to apply because the consulate may or may not ask for the invitation scan to be emailed to your application package, or just simply the passport copy of your host as a consent that you will be staying in the country on the invitation of this person. And life can be very easy, but please, before you choose to apply for this visa, check with the consulate first whether or not your case falls into the category of comfortable applications, easy, and no extra paperwork would be required, or let's say no original of the invitation would be required. Because currently posting that paper to you, to Europe somewhere, is a bit of a challenge, or in America for that matter. Also, depending on which consulate you're dealing with, it may be much easier to apply if you have been to Belarus already several times, you're a frequent traveler with good reputation and good record. In that case, the process will be reasonably simplified, but depends on the local consulate as well. For the migration insecure countries, otherwise called migration risk countries, we will not be trying to call any of them because there is no solid official list that says, guys, don't deal with them. And any travel agent with some experience of dealing with the airport consulate, for instance, would know that, let's say, Thailand is a bad thing and no good. Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, all the places where there's some lack of political stability, let's say. And these guys will have the worst trouble. If at all, the application will be considered at the migration office, IGIM for short. The local host of yours would have to present the proof of finance to support your stay, let's say. Although you may be a rich guy and everything, but still the police may demand that bank statement or something just to make sure they wouldn't have to pay their own money to deport your charming person back to your country. In such cases, it will be certainly original invitation letter, and it will have to be passed to you to present to the consulate just to make sure that everything is right. And another not a frequently used option, your friend, should a Belarusian person be abroad, can accompany you to the embassy, write down a little notice and saying that this is my guest, I'm inviting this guy into the country. And as far as I know, though this may have changed, they do not have to travel together. You don't have to drag your friend from Germany to Belarus. You can just be the guest of that person, and this may work out. But check with your local consulate. Other little things that may come handy as you're working on your trip to Belarus. It's not necessary to stay with your friend-host. Their place can be uncomfortable to stay, there may be too many people, and you may feel more comfortable on your own ground. So the application from them doesn't really list a place where you are obliged to stay or something like this. But if you're staying at an alternative place, a hotel will register you automatically. Please take care of your registration. You can see my video about the travel advice to Belarus for further details about this. Some people look for a friend or a host to invite them through TripAdvisor, and this is just not the way it's meant to be. Although like casual acquaintances are okay by law to invite their, let's say, friends and buddies and everything, but if you're finding a strange person to invite you, they may do you a favor, but that places some responsibility on the host if something goes wrong with your tour, if you decide to walk into Chernobyl zone for the sake of your cool experience. That will be the pretty bad consequences for both of you, for you if you get caught, and for them if you get caught. So it's not something I would personally recommend doing. Last but not least, about your friends applying for the invitation. They might not be registered in Minsk, then their hometown may be a couple of 100 kilometers away. So traveling all the way there to get this paperwork through, or maybe get into a pretty long line, forcing them to overnight there and kickstarting the whole thing may be just super uncomfortable. So double check if your friend, your host is living in Minsk and registered here, and it will be not a problem for them to process your invitation here with the local migration office. Otherwise, that would be generally it. I would love to hear some feedback from you on the cause on the subject, and if you have any questions, more special questions are subject to a consultancy, which is a paid service. Otherwise, your likes, your dislikes, your all sorts of reactions are welcome. And I'll be happy to host you in Minsk at some point, to host you for a cup of coffee or a relocation, depending on your plan. It's all about a solid plan after all. And see you in Minsk someday. Cheers.